Made it.
Great.
Uh, all right. As you can tell, I had a little bit of a trouble with the background, so the background virtual.
Looks good. I like it.
I like it. I
This
thought
may
you
become the new.
I thought you painted it.
I could paint that.
I think it's beautiful.
Ah, okay. All right. Thank you guys for coming. Uh,
Yes,
Parents didn't show up. This was his question.
I know. That's exactly why suffering exists, and even though enlightenment is here, because we don't show up.
Oh, here's Mia. All right. Okay, so I'm supposed to be recording this. It is being
Yeah,
recorded, and it's supposed to be recorded with what view?
with you as the host view, just you.
Okay.
Sort of unfortunate because you have to watch yourself.
Speaker.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
All right. Let me do my eye.
Okay, I can introduce us.
While I'm doing my
Yeah, Phuntsok is doing his face, his makeup.
eye.
Okay, so welcome everyone. Today's topic. Welcome to Home. These are sessions that have been happening for 15 plus years, based on Phuntsok's, 20 plus years as a monk in the temple and 15 plus years outside as well. Phuntsok brings a very unique combination of Tibetan Buddhist practices and teachings. Well, they're all influenced and based on that, but also by his own interpretations and his life as well. So this teaching this week is about why, if uh, enlightened nature is real and exists and is the foundation that gives rise to all things in the universe, how is it possible that suffering and pain can exist? And it's a very deep and important question that I'm sure many of us have asked at one point in our lives, especially while we were suffering. And today we'll hear Phuntsok's teaching on this from a Tibetan Buddhist perspective. And as always, donations are highly appreciated. You can do that through Venmo, Patreon, and PayPal. And I hope you have those links. I cannot send them to you today, but I will put them maybe in the comments. I'll try to put them later. Um, What else? I think that's it. Yeah, I apologize. I'm on my phone after work, so hopefully we can figure some better way of moving forward, but this is what it is today.
I think we are very used to this mobile.
Yeah,
We all understand.
right.
And thank you very much, even though you're mobile, that you're doing this. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thank you, Maria. Yeah, Mia, sorry. Mia just put the links in the chat.
Okay. All right, then. So we shall begin. All right. So, as usual, we begin with uh, meditation and go to the talk. Now, hopefully, I leave time so that you can ask questions, and we close with a meditation also. Okay. I don't need this so I can to meditate, but make clear the intention to enter meditation. Allow your inner wisdom to guide you as to what is meditation, and let the intelligences natural to the body, natural to your being, let them respond to the intention. As far as the the sense of you that feels like it's an agent directing things. All that part needs to do is to hold the intention to enter meditation without imposing its view of what meditation is supposed to be. And it just listens to responses coming from the physical body, coming from the energy body, coming from the mind, coming from the emotions, coming from all the different aspects that we call different dimensions of a being. Modern way of saying your five heaps. Okay, as you hold that intention and you feel for the responses from different parts, from your different heaps, the physical heap, the energetic heap, the conceptual heap, the emotional heap. And make contact with the one that is the loudest, that is the closest to you, perhaps the physical heap. And when you feel a sudden need to make an adjustment, consider that to be, this is the response, a positive response from the intelligence of that particular part of you responding to the intention, responding positively to the intention, and make the adjustments according to what you feel the adjustment should be. Make adjustment with your legs, make adjustment with your seat, make adjustment with your spine, making sure you're comfortable and alert, attentive, with your hands resting in such a posture that they remind you that you're meditating. Shoulders and arms are even. Head and neck are centered, so there's no need to consciously hold them from falling forward or falling backwards or to the side. They give you a sense of being centered. Mouth, teeth, tongue resting in the natural places. So when your attention, your awareness goes to your mouth, teeth, and tongue, immediately you feel a sense of naturalness. And your eyes are resting in whatever posture gives you a sense of rest. They can be resting closed, resting softly, where you slightly open them but not seeing anything, halfway open when you sort of blankly staring in the space in front of you as if you're looking at the space where your hand would be if your hand was in front of you, or even fully open, staring straight ahead, and then just focusing on the space, not necessarily on the objects that are in the space. And once you feel confident in the posture, it feels conducive to meditation. You don't feel the need to make any further adjustments, then gently come to the breath. Not seeking to control the breath, not seeking to make the breath shorter or longer, the in-breath longer or the out-breath longer, just observing the breath as it is naturally occurring. And eventually you will notice a slight shift in the breath. Take that as an indication that the different dimensions of you are now more aligned than they were before. There's more cooperation. The emotions have come in to cooperate. The different aspects of mind have come to cooperate. The physicality, the energetic aspect, they're all coming in to cooperate. They're all seeking meditative state. And with that sense of indication coming from the breath in its shift, then now we will deliberately take 3 conscious breaths to sort of enhance and further the sense of naturalness, the sense of readiness to meditate, to enter meditation. Gently, fully breathe in through the nose and try to take a last at the end of the inhalation. Hold the breath comfortably and eventually breathe out. And as you breathe out, feel yourself letting go physically, feel yourself letting go energetically, feel yourself letting go emotionally, feel yourself letting go mentally, intellectually. And you notice the sense of calm, a sense of peace, a sense of joy slowly arising, a pleasantness slowly arising. Stay with that. Leave the breath alone and just stay aware of that new sense of calm that is palpable in the body, palpable energetically, may even be palpable in the mind. And just rest there, not chasing away anything that you may not like, and not grasping onto anything that you may like. Just rest and noticing that indeed the signs are there. There's a calm arising, there's a pleasantness arising, there's a sense of clarity of the mind where, because of the clarity of the mind, because of the space of the mind, then sensations, inner sensations are arising. It could be tactile, it could be inner hearing, inner seeing, it could even be tasting or smelling, something that you know that is not present in the environment, but somehow you are aware of something as if your senses are picking it up. That's because of the clarity of the mind and the natural radiance of the mind. And we'll do two more of these breaths. Gently, fully through the nose, breathe in. Hold. Relaxing, relaxing, letting go. And as you let go, feel yourself completely let go, as if your body is melting, as if your mind is melting, as if all parts of you are just letting go, letting go, letting go, allowing, letting go. And at the end of that breath, just stay there, leave the breath alone. Whether the breath wants to come back, whether the breath wants to stay, leave it alone and just be aware of the calm is calmer, the pleasant is more pleasant, the clarity is clearer because the sensations are stronger, the luminosity is brighter because the vividness is stronger, and attention is feeling more and more collected, more and more collected, more and more stable. Rejoice to encourage this. And for the third time, gently, fully again, breathe in, hold, release. Feeling the complete letting go, feeling the complete letting go, letting go, letting go. Leave the breath alone and just stay and rejoice, noticing the calm that is palpably in the body, palpably and energetically present, palpably present in the breath, palpably present in the mind to some degree, whatever degree, rejoice. And be aware of just pure space. Remind yourself of directly perceiving a nothing that is or something that is being perceived, pure space. It is a phenomena that is perceivable, that you can point to, and yet there is nothing there actually to point to. And have a sense of amazement, a sense of curiosity about this incredible phenomena, even though you can point to it, but they're not really pointing to something that you can take with you. And if you continue like this, your mind will merge with that space, taking on the characteristic of that space, that empty, free nature. If it doesn't happen, don't have to worry, just keep doing that. And just like space makes it possible for different objects to be, think of that quality of space, making it possible for objects to be in it. And remind yourself, this is just like pure awareness. It's that space, that inner space that makes it possible for different thoughts, different emotions, different experiences to arise, to be. And now let that space help you focus on pure awareness. It looks exactly like pure space. You're not really seeing anything, but it is that space you can point to where you just feel awareness. You are aware that I'm aware. And if a thought arises, the thought is simply to remind you of awareness itself. Whatever it may be, whether it is pleasant, whether it is unpleasant, it is reminding you of awareness. So let it remind you of awareness. Be thankful to the object for pointing you, for bringing you back to being aware of just awareness. And just like awareness and like space, without being any specific thing, it is not the objects that appear within them. Pure consciousness is not the thoughts, the emotions that appear within it. But it makes possible for those things to appear to be experienced. So in that same way, think of fundamental nature is like that. Everything that exists, space, time, objects within space, time, conscious things, non-conscious things. It is not any of those things, but it makes possible for those things to be. You could even say there are modifications or moldings of that fundamental pure, that fundamental nature, fundamental reality. But not everything that appears immediately reminds us of this fundamental realities, this fundamental nature that is the source out of which all things arise, all experiences. So if only there could be some sort of appearance, and by just merely seeing it, it immediately points to this fundamental nature. So if you can think of someone who helps you with that, especially someone who immediately makes you remember love in its purest form, compassion in its purest form, wisdom in its purest form, like their presence, the very presence points to something more fundamental, more meaningful. So allow their appearance to appear in the space of your awareness. And because it does that for you, you feel gratitude towards it. Allow yourself to feel gratitude towards it. This is the inner teacher, the inner guide, the inner protector. Feel reverence and respect. Feel trust. Of all the objects that you've ever encountered, this is the one that you can trust 1,000%. So as you feel sense of trust, as you feel that sense of reverence and gratitude, relax. Feel safe. Let yourself feel safe. And as you're allowing yourself to feel safe, to feel protected, to feel guided, you find yourself going deeper into the calm, deeper into the pleasantness, deeper into the clarity, deeper into the radiance. And it would be nice if that presence could sort of take you into that fundamental space out of which it arose, fundamental reality, fundamental nature. So it sends light throughout existence, and whatever the light touches, they transform into light. And all that light shrinks to the size of a spark of light. Now it's just you and that spark of light. No space, no time anymore. No universe, no other existence, just you and that spark of light. And it comes to the crown of your head, shines light, showers you with its light, with its radiance, preparing you for a journey. And keep relaxing, keep trusting, keep relaxing, keep trusting. And gently it descends through the crown of your head, entering your mind in the very center of your heart. And it sends radiant light again. This time, every atom in your body, every part of you, every single dimension of you becomes pure light. And that pure light again begins to sort of merge with space, as if space became light itself. And that space now, that light now, sort of takes on the quality of space, the appearance of space. And be aware of the awareness that is aware of just that appearance of pure space. And just like you look at space, there's a sense of perceiving a phenomena, but there's no specific thing appearing that you can point to and say, this is this. In the same way, look at pure awareness with curiosity. What is underlying this? And just stay there. And get ready to come out of the meditation. Coming from that pure place, make the intention to come out consciously, having an intention to stay connected to that space, to yourself, to be that pure appearance. And within that space, your mind appears, the emotions appear, your beliefs appear, your cognitions appear, your senses appear, your energy appears, and your physical body appears. And be aware of just the space of the meditation, the calm, the pleasantness, the inner sensations that are pointing to clarity and radiance, the sense of attention being collected, rejoice, and get ready to come out. Take a nice deep breath. Release. And as you release, deliberately become aware of your immediate surrounding. Be aware of the different sounds, the different colors and shapes, the different sensations, physical, the temperature, the feel of your clothing. Okay. All right. Again, thank you for keeping this going by showing up. So today's topic, I think, is a topic that I would say a lot of philosophies try to address, religions try to address, even social sciences to some degree try to address. But whenever they address it, misunderstandings come up. When Buddhism itself tried to address it, of course, misunderstandings come up out of that also. Now, the very fact that you encounter something that says where the term original purity comes your way, original purity, fundamental bliss, within the Advaita, what's it called? Uh, yeah, one of the within the Hindu tradition is the last, or like the latest philosophical understanding, Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, sort of summarizes all of Hinduism. And when Shankaracharya, the founder of Advaita Vedanta, presented this point of view, he was accused of being secretly a Buddhist. What he was saying that the fundamental nature of reality is Sat Chit Ananda, truth, Sat Chit, consciousness, Ananda, bliss. Okay. You could say within Buddhism, there is a somewhat of a similar sort of like summary of fundamental reality, where it is something similar within uh, if you take Buddhism and divide it into its two main philosophical points of view, you have Sutra and Tantra. Within the Sutra, you have where the Buddha sort of describes the fundamental nature of reality is nirvana. And within the sutra, also you have a pointing to something called Tathagata Garbha, which is the fundamental nature of a being is Buddha nature. Like we see what a Buddha is, and it is definitely a person, a being that we aspire to be our final expression. And the reason that we aspire to that to be our final expression or our desired expression of being is because it has a quality of non-suffering, at least that is part of it, a quality of freedom, non-suffering. I would say these are the you could say the two main sort of summaries of the expression of that. Of course, there are many philosophical presentations of how to summarize it. The two main bodies of omniscience and the body, you said the expression that is mainly for the self and the expression that is mainly for others. And within both of those, there is a blissful element. And the reason I'm pointing this out is to remind us that when they say Buddha nature, we remember what does Buddha is. What is Buddha? It is, yeah, we remember Buddha because of Buddhas, especially the final expression that we aspire to also be our final ultimate expression of existing. And there is that blissful expression. And we are told that it is the natural nature of our mind, natural nature of our being, this Buddha, that we have Buddha nature, Tathagata Garbha. Okay. And another way of expressing that is dharma dhatu, which is almost as if to say what we are seeking as the ultimate expression is already the fundamental nature of our being. So that is within the sutra, different ways of where the sutra gives this, points to this kind of fundamental nature, this fundamental purity. Within Tantra, it even goes it's even crazier, because Tantra just from the very beginning makes very bold statements about the fundamental nature of reality being void, inseparable with a bliss. So what it is saying is that the way we experience existence as samsara, or the way we experience existence, if we were to experience existence as nirvana, both of these expressions of ways of experience existence, nirvana or samsara, they both emerge from this fundamental principle of a inseparable, non-dualistic phenomena, just for the sake of talking about it, that they refer to as bliss voidness. Okay, that's the tantric way of presenting it. Now, I have to say, we have to also look at the context. Remember, whenever the Buddha was addressing an audience, the Buddha was addressing the audience according to the audience's propensities to understand. The Buddha didn't make every single discourse that came out of the Buddha's mouth, he came out and said, oh, your fundamental nature is nirvana, or your fundamental nature is bliss, void, wisdom. That wasn't the entirety of every time he was making a discourse. But with certain audiences, he would make that statement. So that is because they had a fundamental understanding where when they heard this, that they would apply it according to the fundamental understanding, that they would not misunderstand it. Like, for example, if one were to take as truth without some sort of foundation that, oh yeah, your fundamental nature is nirvana. Everything that arises is actually coming from bliss voidness. Everything that is an expression of bliss voidness. Then the person, if that person happens to be some sort of psychopath, that person would say, oh, my being a psychopath, my not caring how other people feel, my even taking joy, taking pleasure in making others suffer, that is already bliss voidness. That is already nirvana. And some people may even abuse other people, deliberately harming them, or harming them by accident, and then telling them, it's your fault for not seeing that this is what's happening to you is already fundamentally bliss voidness. It is already bliss. It is already void. It is already nirvana. Okay, so people a psychopath or somebody careless can misunderstand this way. And so when you hear, especially within Zen, especially within Dzogchen teachings, where they keep insisting There's nothing for you to do. You're already perfect. You're already pure. There's nothing for you to gain. There's nothing for you to acquire. So we can misunderstand that. And those of us who say, wait a minute, the only reason that I'm find myself coming to even hear you saying this is because I'm trying to get away from something, from an experience. And you telling me my suffering is actually bliss. You're telling me that the suffering that I witness, that my loved ones are going through, that I can do nothing about, that they cannot do anything about at the moment, is actually bliss. So then you would ask yourself then the question that all religion, all philosophies is trying to answer by saying, like, everything comes from some fundamental good, from the fundamental goodness. The way, what will lead to this misinterpretation is that, remember in the meditation, looking at space, there's this phenomena that you are having a direct perception of, but at the same time, you're not really seeing anything. But you're able to say that space. Even if you're not, it doesn't have to be something that you see with your eyes. Like you go like this, you're not really touching anything. And you say, oh yeah, this phenomena where I'm going like this, I'm not feeling anything. I'm actually encountering something called space. So similarly, this fundamental nature is beyond concept. There are experiences, not every, because 99.99.99.99999999% of the time, we are completely immersed in conceptuality, in duality. So it is difficult for someone who is immersed constantly in conceptuality, in duality, to have an appreciation of something that is not conceptual, to have an appreciation of something that is not dualistic. So the closest way to make us have an understanding of this non-conceptual, non-dual phenomena, possible experience, is to use conceptual terms that we are familiar with. Like, for example, space. Even though we are not seeing anything, as far as seeing is concerned, when you see something, seeing space is completely different when we are seeing things, or when we're having a perception of space, whether it's through the sense of touch or through the sense of hearing, through whatever means that we are experiencing space. Like if you were in a room all by yourself, you could hear space, even though there isn't, as far as sound is concerned, which your ears pick up, space, hearing it is not the same as other sounds. Seeing space is not the same as other perception or other sights. Touching space is not the same as touching other things. But there is a conceptual understanding of space. Okay, so similarly to that experience, that phenomena that we call space, that fundamental nature, space is the closest conceptual understanding that we have that can sort of help us make the journey to that non-conceptual image, that non-conceptual experience. So any description given about it is really using a concept to try to make us make contact with something that is non-conceptual. So when they say everything arises out of a fundamental goodness, it is not everything comes out of a conceptual goodness. When they say everything arises out of a fundamental bliss, it is not a conceptual bliss. But there is something about the conceptual experience of bliss because of its nature, because of how we experience it. It is something, it is like a door to help us understand, to help us make the transition to that fundamental nature. Okay? So first of all, remember, when they say everything arises out of a fundamental goodness, it is not the conceptual goodness that we understand. When they say it is beyond suffering, beyond pain and what did they say? Beyond pleasure and pain. Yeah, they say that. Beyond pleasure and pain. It doesn't mean that there isn't some sort of what do you call those things? Pain and pleasure. Um, what is that one word that sort of like summarize these things? It's not a mm, it doesn't mean that there isn't some kind of experience that in a concept when you bring it to conceptualization that has no feeling whatsoever. Okay, that doesn't mean it doesn't mean like in the conceptual world when we say it is neither pain nor pleasure, we say, oh, it is neutral. Who wants neutral? Who wants to exist in a completely neutral state? Nobody. Okay. And when we hear it being described as especially this is the one I love especially, and I give you a hint. Fundamentally, all things arise out of love. So this love that is the fundamental nature out of which things arise out of, it is not a conceptual love. Okay? So that is the first way to sort of understand this. Because when we hear that, we say, wait a minute, if everything comes out of bliss, how come there is suffering? The reason that we are asking this question, because we are understanding the bliss in a conceptual way. And the way we understand bliss in a conceptual way is that there are things that come together and then we have an experience of bliss. These are conditionalities. Suffering comes from conditional. When the conditions are present, then suffering. When the conditions are present, then there is, I'm not going to use the word bliss. Rather, I'm going to say pleasure, happiness, contentment, satisfaction. Okay. And yes, there are what would you call it? What would you call that? There are, I would say, situations where something may have been something that caused pain, and then somehow later on doesn't cause pain anymore, or it may even cause pleasure, like uh, eating aubergine. That was like the worst experience in my life when I was growing up. Even up to now, we have a mutual dislike of each other. It will be pain, it will be suffering for me to eat something that has aubergine in it. And I hope my mother is not hearing. I literally made myself become allergic to aubergine. Aubergine is a eggplant, okay? I think, I don't think I biologically I was predisposed to be allergic to eggplant, but I think I made myself become allergic to eggplant so that my mother would see it as a medical issue, so she would stop feeding me eggplants. Okay, so that was my initial reaction with eggplant. Eggplant made me suffer. Okay, and later on, uh, someone told me, well, the reason that you don't like eggplant is because no one has prepared it for you in the right way. I say, well, go ahead, try. And the person prepared it, and I said, oh my God, this is good. So the same thing that used to cause me pain is now causing me pleasure. Okay, so there are these things where the experience of pleasure, the experience of pain can sort of can appear to change, to transform. I have to say appear. Okay, so then the way one taking that as an example, then one could say, well, the reason that we experience suffering, that originally it was bliss and somehow it's transformed into its opposite, which is pain or suffering. That is a nice way of understanding it, but it's still using conceptual understanding of these terms purely to try to get an understanding of what they actually mean. Okay. Then, if indeed the fundamental nature, the fundamental source for everything is kind of a goodness, Samantabhadra in Buddhism, all goodness, the all good. The all good is our fundamental nature. The all good is the mind's fundamental nature. All good, the way we're understanding all good is a conceptual way, in the sense of all the conditions for very pleasant existence have been collected, and now we are experiencing the outcome of all those wonderful conditions. Okay, that is not how to understand Samantabhadra, all good. It's not how to understand bliss voidness. It's not how to understand Buddha nature. Okay, remember, these are just pointers because of how we experience them, just like the way we experience space. Space is a good pointer to these things. Space itself is not unlike any perception objects that we perceive. So in that same way, this fundamental nature is unlike any concept that we have. Okay. Now, how do we understand it? And I'll begin with my favorite, which is the fundamental nature of all, out of which all things arise, is the principle of love. Okay. Now, how do we understand this so that we we can explain it to a psychopath, and a psychopath will not take advantage of it and not feel any remorse or not feel any hesitation or whatever, or someone who's abusing someone by either by accident will not take into consideration that, oh, I should apologize, where they will say, well, it's my slapping you is love. My harming you is it's love. Okay. The harm that you feel, it's your fault. There's something wrong with you. It's your bad karma. I'm throwing flowers at you, and then you're experiencing arrows being thrown at you. Okay. All right. So let's remember, we are using concepts to describe something that is beyond concepts. And beyond concepts doesn't mean that it abides in a non-existing plane. Okay. Just know that your mind right now is just that your attention is more accustomed to the conceptual way of perception, the conceptual way of interacting. It is just more habituated to that. There's also non-conceptual perception taking place. And the reason that we are not as aware of them as we are aware of the conceptual thing is just that we're not as habituated to them as we're habituated to the other. So meaning that just like in the sense of you have the capacity to perceive red, doesn't mean that you see red all the time. But when red is present, you're able to see it. So there is the conceptual, there's the capacity of the mind to perceive conceptually, and there's the capacity of the mind to perceive non-conceptually. Okay. All right. Now we are using concepts to describe something that is non-conceptual. What about the fundamental nature of reality that makes the Heart Sutra, not the Heart Sutra, the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra, use the word love as the fundamental nature of reality? What about that? So look at some of the experiences or expressions of love. Love, the way in Buddhism, the way love is described in a very simple way is sincerely wanting the other to be happy. Sincerely wanting the other to be happy. Okay, so just take that as a starting point. Wanting the other to be happy. And now let's remind ourselves of non-philosophical just experiences that we've had of life where we've experienced that. We want someone else to be happy. One immediate way we can think of either your mother towards you or you as a parent towards your child, where you want that child to experience happiness, right? And when the child says, I want this, and you want to give the child that because you know that, oh, that's what the child wants in order to make contact, to experience happiness. And I will provide that to the child so that the child experiences happiness, right? So think about that. Giving the child what the child believes will make the child happy so that the child will experience happiness. Okay. Now, in our real experience of life, not everything the child asks for necessarily will make the child happy. The child doesn't know that, but the child wants it anyway. Like, I want to play with the fire, I want to touch it, I want to know how it feels. The child believes that that will make the child happy. But as a parent, as a parent of the child, you know that, wait a minute, that is not going to make you happy. I cannot give that to you. I wish I could give it to you. I wish I could somehow change it so that you can actually have that experience where you're playing with the thing and then there's no harm, there's no danger. But the happiness that you're seeking is not going to be, you're not going to experience it but when you have that. All right. And I brought this example because knowing, as the parent, knowing this will not make you happy because of how you are conditioned. Because I know of what you are. You have a flesh, you have a body made of flesh, and that body, when it comes in contact with that other thing called fire, it doesn't cause happiness. It causes harm. It causes pain. Okay? Now, think of uh th think of from a perspective now, not just the perspective, not in the immediate physical world, but rather go beyond that, go before, prior to this physical experience. Try to think of this fundamentally who you are. Okay? Fundamentally, you are not a physical being, but rather being a physical being is just an expression of something much deeper, much more profound, right? That aspect that is, you could say, is intrinsic to who you really are. And using the word who you really are, of course, our conceptual mind is immediately trying to conceptualize it. Okay. But don't as soon as you hear it, just hold it without letting conceptual mind color it and cover it up with conceptualizations. Okay. Have a visual understanding of voidness, like space. Okay. Fundamentally, you are fundamentally, I'm going to say that. Fundamentally, you are empty. You are like space. Space cannot be harmed with fire. Okay, now remember, we're just using conceptual terms to try to understand something that is beyond concept. Okay, remember that. Your child is not pure space. Your child wants to touch fire. Don't stop your child from touching the fire. Okay. We are now talking about outside of that. Why is it that the universe is allowing that for a child to even be able to want to touch fire when fire hums will give it pain? Why is it that in the universe there is the existence of 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 the potential for physical body to be burned by fire? Why can't we just jump and go into the sun and enjoy the trillion degree heat that is there? Why can't we just enjoy it? Why is it that the way we are right now, the way the sun is right now, we can't even look at it from this distance, let alone jump into it? Why can't we do that? Why is it that the universe doesn't allow that? Why is it that instead there's pain associated with that? Okay. And this is where we're trying to get to. Okay. So outside of the reality of the parent and the child, you could say almost the actually, there's this psychologist that I just heard on a podcast. He said some very interesting things. He's a scientist, and then science is beginning to question space-time, because space-time, when you really look at it, it doesn't make sense. Just like Buddhas, they look at prior to becoming a Buddha, you look at reality and you say, wait a minute, something is not quite right here. It doesn't make complete sense. Okay. And then the Buddha arriving at empty. Okay. It is empty. Okay. Now, science, through their further investigation, they are now at the point where they're saying, wait a minute, space-time doesn't quite make sense. Why is light, no matter what, is always constant? When you take light is like an object, like any other object in the physical universe. When you take a ball, you throw it in front of you at a certain with a certain velocity. It travels at a certain velocity depending on how hard you throw it, right? And then you was talking about a thought experiment where you're in a train now, and the train is traveling at 200 miles per hour, and then without any effort, you throw the ball. The momentum of the train will be transferred to the ball, and the ball will travel at speed plus the 200, right? But if you do the same thing with light, like you take a flashlight and you flash it, the flashlight will not be the speed of light plus the 200. It will always remain the speed of light. Believe me, this is not a physics talk. It is to help us, and I think spiritual people, especially spiritual people, have always been suspicious that there is something we can't even call it something, but an experience that can be experienced that is beyond what you call space-time. You know, space-time and everything in it. There's something beyond space-time. Okay? So try to think of something, space-time and everything within it, as the conceptual world, the world of duality, and all the different degrees that you can think of in terms of colors we're not able to see, colors we're able to see, sound we're not able to hear, sound we're able to hear, and all those kinds of things, everything that we know so far, everything that we don't know yet, okay, things that we cannot know because of our physicality, okay? Think of that as space-time or conceptual world. And we say, and the spirituality say there is a non-conceptual. Okay, so space-time exists within the conceptual, and there is something beyond space-time. Okay, so from the perspective of space, non-space-time, beyond space-time, the non-conceptual, there is from that perspective, so from that perspective, looking at space-time, from that perspective, looking at conceptualization, from that perspective, looking at mother and child, it knows that the child is ultimately not just physicality, is not just capacity to be burned, potential to be burned. Okay? It knows that the child is beyond that. So there is no child that eventually gets burned. Okay, take that into consideration. There is no child ultimately that gets burned. There is no child ultimately, I have to keep saying ultimately, that gets burned. Okay? All right. There's no child ultimately that gets burned. Take the principle of love. You want to be happy. You think that will make you happy. Go have the experience. This is from the perspective of outside of space-time, the perspective of outside of conceptualization, where there is ultimately no one who there's no one who suffers. Ultimately, there's no one who also experiences pleasure and pain. That's what they mean that ultimately there's no pleasure, there's no pain. Ultimately, there is no one that that it permanently experiences pain, permanently experiences a pleasure, samsaric pleasure. So from that perspective, the principle of reality being referred to as love, the way we understand it, you want to be happy, you believe this will make you happy, because remember, there is no sentient being who does anything with the intention, let me do this so I can suffer. Even when we have guilt and we feel that I must punish myself, the reason that we may feel I must punish myself is because by punishing myself, eventually I'll be happy. Right? It's not that I must forever abide in a state where I'm perpetually unhappy, but rather I need to go through that so that I can arrive at a condition where I feel satisfied. And feeling satisfied is a place of contentment, a place of not needing anything further. Okay? So there is no sentient being who does anything with the intention, let me do this so I can experience suffering. So this is to toss out this new agey idea that we were in some paradise and we became completely cuckoo, as far as I'm concerned, and told ourselves, let me go down there and experience suffering. Because I've never had that before. In my eternal existence, I've never experienced anything called suffering. Let me go and see what suffering is like. And then we come to earth and we experience suffering. Oh my goodness, suffering. Because that is not true. Okay. We are not coming from some pure place where we were bored with our purity and we wanted to experience something completely different than the purity. And we said, oh, let me experience suffering. And some philosophies or religions say that, well, how are you going to know that you're in bliss if you don't have suffering? That is cuckoo, okay? That is not the reason why we experience suffering, okay? There is no conscious awareness about, there is suffering over there, let me go towards it because I need that experience for my growth. That's something else that they say. Somehow in your perfect world, you are not perfect, but you needed suffering to make you perfect. Or perfect is not perfect enough, so you need more, more experience so it can be more perfect. Okay? All these ideas, whether some Buddhist is teaching it to you or some non-Buddhist is teaching it to you, has nothing to do with those fundamental ideas that those terms are trying to point to. Okay? Now, from the perspective, ultimately speaking, there is no child suffering. From that perspective, that freedom, the very nature of reality, freedom is part of the nature of reality. What does that mean by freedom? I mean, there is no being who decides to do something and without having within them adverse conditions can be stopped from experiencing it. There is no being, because of the perfect freedom, which is part of our its essential nature, where we have not already collected adverse conditions where we want to have an experience where we can be stopped. That's why it is said, no Buddha can stop someone from experiencing something. No Buddha can force you to get out of samsara. No Buddha can force you to enter nirvana. Not because they lack the ability but rather it is just completely the very nature that the very fundamental fabric of reality that allows for us to eventually experience nirvana. The very fundamental nature of reality that even allows for samsaric experience. That very fundamental nature of our nature makes it impossible for someone to force us to have an experience that we ourselves have not set the conditions to experience. Okay? So taking that into consideration, that very free nature, meaning if the nature itself is free itself, freedom itself, then being susceptible to burning, that is just an attribute, a temporary experience that we have adopted. And it's not, and it's not coming from, oh, I would like to, it's not some, at some level, or whatever that level could be, where we make a decision, oh, I would love to experience burning, being able to be burned. Let me be born with a body that can be burned. Okay, it's not coming from that kind of intention. Okay. There's let me quickly remind you of something. Enlightened nature and being enlightened are two different things. Everything exists because of enlightened nature. But not everything is enlightened. We exist because of enlightened nature. That is, whatever we are comes from enlightened nature. Being able to suffer comes from enlightened nature. Being able to exist where we never experience suffering anymore comes from enlightened nature. That complete, perfect freedom. Being enlightened is having conscious or abiding, consciously aware of that fundamental nature. And when we abide, knowing, when we abide, you could say, abide in that consciously, you could say, consciously abiding in that fundamental nature. We are aware, we are, just like we directly are perceiving space, there's an experience where we are directly experiencing that fundamental nature, that enlightened fundamental nature. Just that alone is being enlightened. Okay? Since the enlightened nature is something that already exists, people use terms like you're enlightened already, but that is misleading. Your nature is enlightened nature, but you are not yet enlightened until you are consciously abiding in that understanding. Okay? So, I have to present it in a way as if the universe is something outside of you, doing something for you. But this is just a way to sort of get an understanding of it, okay? Maybe someone else can present it in a way where they don't have to present it that way. So the very nature of reality being perfect freedom. And that principle of freedom is something analogous to the simple understanding of love, right? Allowing other to make connection with happiness. Okay. And if you have a problem with the word happiness, choose something else. Very similar. Okay. So ultimately, since the child is not burnable. It's not something that is burnable. And the being free, being freedom itself, believes that if I touch fire, I'll be happy, and proceeds to touch fire. The universe is not restraining that being from having that experience. And I'm presenting, again, I'm presenting the universe as if the universe is something outside of you, and it's sort of like a parent, and knowing, okay, you can play there, that would be okay for you, but you can't play there, that would be harmful to you. That kind of a parent kind of thing. But this is just a way to help to help us conceptualize something that is beyond concept. Okay, so the universe already knows, fundamentally, you are perfect freedom itself. And you're as a being, you're convinced that going in that direction, I will be happy. Being your nature being perfectly free, you're able to go in that direction. And because that is coming from a misunderstanding of your true nature, then the experience becomes painful. Because what you're moving towards is a active misunderstanding of your true nature, moving towards it, actively moving towards a misunderstanding of your true nature. That is what we experience as suffering, as pain. So pain is a signal, is a message. You've traveled a certain distance from the fundamental nature. Since I identify my being as being fundamentally identified with this physical body, and when this physical body touches fire, the destruction happening to the physical body, I feel it as happening to me, because I have intrinsically identified my beingness with this physical body. So what's happening to the physical body, I take it as happening to me. Okay. So the movement that I'm doing towards the fire is, I am physical body, and my physical body is going to touch physical fire. And the experience of the physical body is what's happening to me. Okay. And there is the talk, or a saying, nature allows it. The universe allows it. Why doesn't the universe stop me from touching the fire if the fire is going to be burning? Why is it that touching fire equals burning? Why does that exist in nature? It is not that the fire is burning me, but rather I am convinced I am body, and what's happening to body, I'm convinced is happening to me. So I am suffering. But because of freedom, the fundamental essence of freedom, if I were to abide in my fundamental nature and being consciously aware that I am freedom itself, I am not this body, I could make this body touch the fire, either let it burn and not feel pain or suffering, or not let it burn, or it doesn't burn. And I'm not identified, I've not identified myself with this expression, but rather I've identified with something more fundamental. Okay. So you could say, from the perspective, again, from the perspective outside of space-time, from the perspective outside of nirvana and sans duality, from that perspective, you could say that perspective, you could say, only sees fundamental nature. That thing that gives rise, or we call it the thing, just for the sake of talking, that thing that gives rise to space, time, and everything in it. That thing that gives rise to all the experiences. Okay? Fundamentally, it is not any of those things. Just like when you look at space and all those things that are in the space, they're not space, but space allows them to be. So that fundamental thing that allows for experiences, that fundamental thing that allows for space-time, that fundamental thing that allows for existence, experiences, is not the experiences. It is not space-time. Because it is not space-time, because it's not these experiences, as far as it's concerned, those things are just play. Fundamentally, there is no one to experience suffering. Fundamentally, ultimately, there is no one to experience pleasure. Fundamentally. So from that perspective, there is no evil. From that perspective, there is no good. Because evil and good are concepts. Now, what does that mean? They are concepts. They are experiences in life. In life. They are experiences. They are real experiences as far as our reality is concerned. But remember, there's a reality able to be experienced outside space-time. That's not where our perspective is at the moment. Okay? So what does that mean outside space-time? It doesn't mean there is absolutely no space-time. It doesn't mean there's absolutely no, I mean, not even conventionally, you could say. There is not even conventionally space-time. There's not even conventionally pain and suffering. There's pleasure and pain. There is not conventionally evil, that which lead to harm, and good, that which promotes goodness, that would promote pleasure, that would promote goodness. Okay? Or that which promote the return to fundamental essence, fundamental being. So space-time is a reality. Is a reality. And within space-time, within the world, our world of experiences, while we are conceptual, that is our reality. While we are conceptual, that is our reality. That means there is evil, there is goodness, but they are conceptual. But it doesn't mean that because they're conceptual, that means they don't, it doesn't matter. It does matter. It doesn't mean there is no pain. It doesn't mean there's no suffering. There is suffering, but they are conceptual. Remember, space-time is a reality. That is where real experiences, where a sense of real experiences occur. That which gives rise to space-time, that which allows for a conceptual dualistic experience, reality, being the very, just for the sake of speaking, the very stuff that gives birth to reality, gives birth to experiences. When it gives birth to experiences, it is experiences. When it gives birth to reality, it is reality. Okay? And the reason I'm saying this is to deny space-time in its relative way of functioning, to deny valid concepts, is to deny that which give rise to them. To deny space-time, to deny duality, is to deny the very non-duality, is to deny the very fundamental purity that gives rise to these experiences. That which give rise to these experiences give rise to real experiences. So space-time is a reality. Even because space-time arises out of this fundamental goodness, everything that is experienced within it is reality. Within that, okay? Within that, it is reality. But outside of that, it is not reality. But within that, it is reality. To be able to no longer experience some of the unwanted consequences of abiding in space-time, one has to come out of space-time. In order to no longer experience samsaric experience, one has to extract oneself from the conditions that give rise to experiencing reality as samsaric. Okay. Samsara is not the good side of reality, and nirvana the bad side of reality, and nirvana the good side of reality. Samsara, where suffering exists, where evil exists, these are the natural consequences of simply not turning away from our true nature, not abiding, not realizing our true nature, which is perfect freedom itself. And nirvana is abiding in that. And in nirvana, there isn't a bunch of gifts waiting for you. There isn't omniscience, a bag of omniscience, a bag of supernatural powers, a bag of being able to travel to different galaxies in the snap of a finger. There isn't those things sort of waiting for you in nirvana. But rather, and there isn't this immeasurable capacity to love, this immeasurable capacity to have compassion. They're not waiting for you in nirvana. Okay? There's nothing waiting for you in nirvana. When we become completely aware and abide in our true nature, the very response that we engage in appears as the supernatural powers without the intention. Oh, let me see. Let me grab my supernatural power number 24, and then we put it on, and then we act. And when we finish with that, we put it away. We put it something else. That's not how nirvana is. But rather, just abiding in our nature and relating spontaneously, these things just appear, and they are not appearing necessarily from a place of intention, and they're not appearing necessarily from your perspective as the enlightened being. You're not trying to do something special, and then you do something special. You're just being natural. You just are relating with others, and then it appears that it's experienced as this incredible love. When you encounter suffering from that perspective, your way you relate with that perception is perceived as this incredible compassion, because you're no longer blocking yourself from true nature. Then you're not obstructed from knowing anything. And it's not that you're trying to calculate with your super Buddhistic mind, super Buddha mind, what is this, what is that, where does that come from? There's no intention to even try to do these kinds of things. Just relating with knowledge. Others perceive it as, oh my God, incredible super omniscience. It's not because the Buddha is thinking, oh, let me put on my omniscient hat so they can see that I'm omniscient. Or let me put on let me grab out of my nirvana cave my incredible love so that I can show them my love. It's nothing like that. But just abiding in your true nature, these things, that's why they say the Buddhas are spontaneous. They have no intention to do anything. Things just happen. Or from our perspective, we think, oh, look at this one incredible love. Look at this incredible compassion. From the Buddha's perspective, there's no intention for that. Okay. And there's a misunderstanding because the Buddha has this perspective. Some people think that the Buddhas don't see suffering. Remember, these are realities. It's a reality. If the Buddha cannot see the conventional experience of suffering, then it's not a Buddha. It's not what's the point of becoming a Buddha if you can't see suffering? It's not that suffering is complete, what's that thing called? It's a complete mirage that somebody's experiencing only in their mind. Okay. The fundamental thing, the dharma dhatu, the Buddha nature, the enlightened nature, the original, the primordial purity, the bliss void inseparability, the nirvana fundamental nature. It is this very thing that a consciousness moving within it molds it into the experiences of either nirvana or molds it into the experience of samsara. And because the experiences of samsara comes from that fundamental purity, from that fundamental essence, that's why all those philosophers, they say everything is already enlightened. It's from that perspective. So since that is the fundamental nature of things, it tells you to experience that bliss, to experience that freedom. You don't have to go collect things, put them together, and then they will create for you the bliss. It will create for you the qualities that are attributed to an enlightened being. They will not create that for you, because at the most fundamental, every experience you have is a molding of that. Now, remember, this bliss, this freedom, is just a term used within the conceptual realm to point to something beyond concepts. But there's something about them that can help us understand that. Rather, look at bliss, this fundamental bliss that is molded to being evil, that is molded to being suffering. Why is it that we are experiencing suffering instead of bliss when we are molding? It is because it is not the bliss as we understand it, but rather when we stop trying to make things and make them into what they fundamentally already are, just leave them alone, then we allow ourselves to have a direct experience, a direct perception of that fundamental reality of what they really are. And what we encounter is that bliss. Go back to space. When we unclutter our experience of existence with all the misunderstandings that we have about the very experiences that we have, the misunderstanding I have about my pleasure, the misunderstanding that I have about my pain. There is a misunderstanding about it that is sort of glued to it. If I'm able to remove my misunderstanding about that suffering, about that pain, I remove my misunderstanding about the pleasure, and the misunderstanding is removed, then we experience that space lacking that misunderstanding as bliss. So it's not a bliss that is a something like an object somewhere in space that we can make contact with, but rather it's just like you are standing for a long time, and then you start to experience discomfort, and as soon as you sit down, then you start to experience a sense of ease. The sense of ease is not something that you ingested to make you experience it, but rather it is the mere absence of that discomfort. So the bliss that is the fundamental nature of reality is not something for us to go touch. It's not something for us, something to take on, but rather it is the experience, the natural outcome when we remove the misunderstanding. That's what that space feels like when we want to conceptualize the experience. In order to conceptualize the experience, the closest concepts that we can come up with in terms of feeling of that space free from misunderstanding is bliss. And it is said that bliss is 1,000,000 times more than any kind of bliss that we can ever imagine, that we have ever experienced. It is an overwhelming bliss. But think of it more as the sense of ease you feel after you've been standing for a long time. It's not that you took something called ease and now you're experiencing it, but rather the absence of that discomfort. So the bliss that is referred to, and the reason that in Tantra it is referred to as inseparable bliss, voidness, that perfect freedom and that experience of that space, absent of that ignorance. When you come to the conceptual world to try to express it, the only terms that conceptual world has that comes closest to it, but it is far beyond them, are bliss and voidness, or fundamental purity, fundamental goodness. And because when you abide in that fundamental goodness, fundamental purity, the spontaneous actions that you take from there you cannot but be compassionate. You cannot but be loving. You cannot but be wise. And not because you intend to. It's just the natural expression. So the reason that we are stupid is because we are trying too hard to be smart. The reason that we find it difficult to be loving is because we are trying too hard to be loving. If the reason that we're finding it too difficult to have compassion for some people is because we are trying too hard to do those things. But if we understand just abiding in our true nature, these are spontaneous expressions without even having the intention to. And the reason we seek those things is because somewhere deep within us, we know these are there are what we expect to be our expressions. And the reason that we're not expressing them is because we have misidentify our identity with things found in the dualist universe. We have identified ourselves with objects within space-time, rather than knowing that what we are is beyond space-time. What we are is beyond concept. Just like Ananda told the king, "My king, do not be afraid of death, because what you are in truth is beyond anything any concept can present." I don't know if my attempt at trying to express why evil exists, why suffering exists, I hope at least I put a little dent in that. And if you have any, since it's very late, I didn't think it would have taken so long, but I guess such a concept since millennia, since the dawn of people thinking, trying to get to the bottom of it. So I'm sure taking a little time trying to get to some understanding of it. Understanding it takes taking this time that it took is understandable. So if you have any questions, please ask. So just in case there was something that fundamental about that topic that I sort of missed, so I can either touch upon or maybe think about it some more. Please ask your questions, unless you prefer to put an end to this already.
Hey, Lama Phuntsok.
Yes.
So as you mentioned that the state that we're looking for is something that you don't get, right? It's not something that you have to go and like find. It's the absence of something.
Mm-hmm.
So something came up where despite the fact that it's the absence of something, is that state of absence also like still a condition that you have to get in a way in itself? Is it not also a condition that you need to get?
Oh, yes, that is very good. That's a very good question. That reminds me of a Zen poem somebody pointed out to me recently about, let me see if I can quickly find it. It won't take long, so you can ask questions, people. Think about questions. It's a very confusing, somewhat, it can be very misleading thing. I have to put on my glasses. I've conditioned myself to need glasses. Oh, here it is. Yeah, this is a Zen thing. Ordinary mind is the way. If you try to direct yourself towards it, you go away from it. Okay, like your mind as it is enlightened. So that can give you a misunderstanding. And the way to address that is, yes, that's what I said before. Enlightened nature gave rise to what you are, your ordinary mind, your ordinary experiences. They are shaped by that. They are molded by that. That's what is molded into your ordinary experience. That's what is molded into your ordinary life. But you're not aware of it. So you have to do something. And that something is either stopping to do something or doing something that will reconnect you to that awareness, to where you become aware of that, that the enlightened nature is already here. It's not something to create. It's not something to go and get. Now, and it is also pay attention to your practices. Pay attention to your practice. Do you find yourself looking for the expressions that will come out of enlightenment? Do you find yourself looking for them outside of you? Okay. So you have to look, but you have to look not outside of you, but within you. And what does that mean? At the very moment you're having an experience, look at the experience. Within the experience itself is what has been, is what the enlightened nature has been molded into. If you look at the experience and not be trapped by the outer appearance of it, but seek to see it at its fundamental nature, then you will see the enlightened nature that it is itself made out of. Not that it is, if it was a bad experience, not that it is no longer a bad experience. It is no longer ultimately a bad experience. And this is where Dzogchen and some of the, not Dzogchen, even Mahamudra, Dzogchen, that's where they say it self-liberates. So you don't need to seek a pure experience in order for you to make contact with the qualities that are related to being enlightened. Whatever experience you're having, we have at your disposal at that moment that which will help you become enlightened, because that experience is made up of enlightened nature. Imagine that something is made out of something, and that something that it is made out of is sort of like difficult for you to see what it is made out of. Like, for example, something made out of paper, but it is shaped in such a way that it doesn't immediately tell you that it's made out of paper, but it is made out of paper. But how do you know that it's made out of paper? You have to really look at it. And then the fact that it is made out of paper become apparent to you. And all the things that are attributed to paper, oh, this thing is subject to what paper is subjected to. If it looked like a very heavy boulder, paper is not as heavy as a boulder, it's not heavy. It's burnable. So in the same way, if you are able to allow yourself to see that whatever experience that you have itself is made up of, imagine freedom itself as a substance. It is made up of pure freedom. Then at that moment, you're sort of like outside of space-time, and you can reshape it. You can reshape it into an experience that no longer blinds you to what it is made out of. An experience that reminds you that it is bliss void wisdom, that is original purity. And because of that, that's why in Dzogchen it says it self-liberates, meaning the very thing that you are seeking liberation from become the very liberation that you enter, that you experience. I hope that addressed the question.
I'm going to sit with it. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So lastly, and some of that, I think it's very late. I think people want to ask more questions, but I'm just going to end up and say that means when you're approaching your practice and you're finding it difficult to express those enlightened ideal, immediately to express those, that love, that immeasurable love, that that compassion that is all-encompassing, the capacity to know when you find yourself not able to express that, when you find yourself not able to express patience, all those things that are considered to be, enlightened qualities, remind yourself that if I just abide in my natural state, these will be just natural expressions, spontaneous expressions. And the reason that I find myself trying them is because I've strayed away from my true free nature. Okay. And just relax. Whatever it is that you're doing, do it in a relaxed way. Whether reciting mantras to help you connect, recite the mantra with that in mind. This is a way to reconnect me to that fundamental nature. Whether you're visualizing, it's just a way to help me reconnect to the fundamental nature. Okay. That way, practice itself doesn't become a chore. It doesn't become something that we don't really develop discouragement. We don't really develop the desire to quit, the desire to the sense of I can't do this kind of thing. Okay. All right. All right. I've kept you very late. I'm very sorry, and I say thank you very much for your patience. I really hope that we really touched upon this because it's and if you feel that we need to touch upon it even some more, I'm willing to touch upon it even some more. Okay. I will not repeat what I've just said. Maybe a little bit, and then we go further. Okay. Maybe I didn't go deep enough into practical experiences. Okay. All right. Yes, Nizam?
Just saying thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, let's do our closing meditation. All the meditations are build up, build up, build up, build up. Okay. It may appear to be new, but it's actually build up on what we've done before, and we're just going deeper. All right. Have the intention to meditate. Since it wasn't so long ago that we meditated, just remember how it felt like when you were meditating, and allow that very recollection begin to give you the taste of being in meditation. Begin to palpably feel the body, how it felt when it was in meditation, physically, energetically. Begin to feel the breath, how it felt when you were in meditation. Begin to feel how the mind felt when you were in meditation. And as you begin to have that taste, take a nice deep breath, feeling it, wishing to continue to feel it, and let go. And as you let go, let yourself go deeper, let yourself go, let yourself go, let yourself go deeper into that experience, deeper into the feeling in the body, deeper into the feeling mentally. And have the sense of the me-ness, and how the me-ness is this beautiful bouquet of different dimensions, and they all have together the expression me. And as soon as any expression, any dimension wishes to engage another dimension, it doesn't say, let me engage that dimension, but rather, I'm helping myself. The left hand helping the right hand doesn't say I'm helping the right hand, but I'm helping myself. So have that sense and feel that in the space where you are, we are all sitting in a nice circle. Doesn't matter if you're watching this in a closet or in a car, we are all sitting in your space, and we all are there comfortably. And that same sense of relationship that we feel our left hand for the right hand, we feel it for each other. A sense of readiness to help each other as though we are just helping ourselves, like the right hand helping the left. And we hold on to this strongly. And because of that, a pure appearance appears in the center of our circle. That pure appearance immediately upon perception, upon feeling it, reminds us of something fundamentally fundamental, reminds us of that freedom, that purity, and that sense of that purity to help us expand it towards every perception. We see that light presence expanding, absorbing everything into it. And as it absorbs everything into it, everyone into it, that sense of me-ness expands. We see each other, and yet we think it's me. It expands until it envelops all your pets, your neighbors, your city, your country, the entire earth. And if your mind can go to the entire galaxy or more, whatever is the extent of all, everything for you. And everything that is in that light, the ocean, that's me. The grass, it needs help, that's me. The rivers, the mountains, the Democrats, the Republicans, the liberals, that's me. The independents, that's me. And allow yourself to become one with that love that is the fundamental essence of the universe, where it wishes everyone to experience happiness. You want the trees to be happy. You want the sky to be happy. You want the rivers to be happy. Anything happens to them, it's happening to you. And feeling this understanding, this perception, this way of relating, being firm. So you no longer need an outside appearance of light absorbing everything to give you that perception. You hold on to that understanding as the light now begins to shrink. And as it shrinks, it leaves a shimmer, a brightness in everything. And that brightness is a sense of knowing of your fundamental oneness with everything. And it's not a conceptually fundamental oneness. Until again becomes just a bright presence in the center of our circle. And now it it spreads itself, divides itself into rays of light entering our hearts. And we have now this firm understanding. When I sincerely help myself from that space, I help everyone. When I sincerely help others, I am helping myself. Because of this fundamental interconnectedness, which is the very web of reality. And lastly, this light in our hearts shrinks us until there is an appearance that looks like space, but we know it is something beyond space-time. But for now, it looks like space. That fundamental freedom, because it is absent any duality. It has the feeling of bliss. And we will now consciously mold this. It is now molded into our beliefs. It is now molded into our thoughts. It is now molded into our energy. It is now molded into this very body that we call our body. So this body is now a Nimanakaya. This mind is now a Dharmakaya. And our energy and our emotions is the Sambhogakaya. And make the only intention to relate with reality from this understanding. And with that, go to the space of pure experience that feels pleasant, peaceful, spacious, bright, collected. Rejoice, feel the merit energy, and with your love and your compassion, direct it immediately to what immediately is of compassionate concern to you. By the power of this peace, by the power of this joy, by the power of this clarity, by the power of this, may such and such concern be addressed. And trying to stay connected with that understanding, make the intention to come out of the meditation. Take a nice deep breath. Release the breath. And as you release the breath, deliberately reconnect with your immediate surroundings. Feel the temperature, feel the clothing, feel the cushion, hear the different sounds. Know this is this color, this is this shape, this is this light, this is this shadow. And thank you. Wow, you're really patient. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and until next time.
Thank you so much, Phuntsok.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phuntsok.
Thank you,
Yes.
Phuntsok.
Thank you, Leah.
Good night. Thank you,
Bye.
Nizam.
Mia, thanks for putting those in the chat.
Mm,
Of course.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, good night.